All right, so yeah, thanks for the introduction. I'm going to talk about some of the work that the LAMP team has done to sort of characterize and sort of investigate some of these CLPS landing sites, former and upcoming CLPS landing sites, as well as more recently starting to look at some of the Artemis target sites or landing sites as well. First thing I'll say is that a lot of this work was done by sort of several different members of the LAMP team. So credit goes to them. Lizeth Magana, Akbar, and Elena Dolgas have put in a lot of work on some of these mapping products for this particular work. First, a little bit of background on LAMP. So LAMP is stands for the Lyman Alpha Mapping Project. It's a far UV spectrograph on LRO. Our PI is Dr. Kurt Rutherford here at Southwest Research Institute. So yeah, it has this sort of push broom style sort of way that it collects data. So as LRO is orbiting, it sort of builds up these sort of ground tracks and creates these, you sort of add these together to create these nice maps that we always see. So it's like I said, it's a far UV spectrograph. We're in that sort of 100 to 200 nanometer range is where we do most of our mapping. And then for our sort of nominal 50-kilometer altitude orbit, generally we would say our spatial resolution is about 250 meters, although often we sort of bin down in spatial resolution to about 1 kilometer or so to help increase that signal to noise to get the best maps we can get. And we do have sort of several different data processing pipelines to create different kind of derived data products. And we have these, sort of some of these global products as well as local spectral maps. So the interesting thing about LAMP is that it can essentially see in the dark. So it uses these nighttime illumination sources to sort of map the lunar night side and to look inside of those permanently shadowed regions at the poles. So our primary illumination sources are Lyman alpha sky glow. This is sort of interstellar hydrogen that's emitting light at that 121 nanometer Lyman alpha line, as well as these UV bright stars, which are clustered around the galactic plane. So like I mentioned, we use this primarily to map the PSRs. So we see in the visible wavelengths, we can't really see inside of the PSRs. There's not any direct reflected sunlight. But these sort of UV illumination sources do reflect off the surface inside of those PSRs. So we might get a map something like we see on the right. This is a Lyman alpha albedo map. And I'll say, yeah, if we look closely, we can see that the PSRs generally have lower albedo than sort of the more illuminated regolith. But we do see here, this is a map from Kathy Mott's work, where we see these sort of fresh impact craters have sort of altered the albedo inside of these PSRs. So we do still see some interesting features inside of these PSRs, which I'll get into a bit more later. We can also create dayside maps. So this is essentially using the typical solar reflectance method. This is reflected solar UV light, which is typically across that 120 to 190 nanometer range. And I mentioned before, we have these sort of global maps like we see on top. And this is an off-band to on-band albedo ratio map. So this is sort of like the long band versus the shorter wavelength band in the UV. And we see these sort of differences in composition, maturity, and even we'll get into hydration a bit more later. It really starts to stand out in some of these UV maps. We also have on the bottom these spectral maps. These are local area maps that have really high spectral resolution at maybe slightly lower spatial resolution to investigate some of these sort of hydration-related, mineralogy-related features more closely. So we see that different areas of the lunar surface really show up differently, and they have different spectral slopes in different regions of the UV spectrum. So we can sort of use all of these different sort of maps that we have, these different spectral signatures that we see to investigate a lot of different things about the surface of the moon. And like I mentioned, we've had several folks actually already start to look at some of these CLPS landing sites, and we're happy to, and we plan on looking at more of these upcoming landing sites in the future to do some real detailed characterization. In particular, Reiner Gamma, which is this sort of interesting immature crustal anomaly region, which is the site of lunar vertex on IM3, which we're looking forward to. And I'll show in a little bit, we have some nice maps of that region. The Gruithuisen domes, which are the landing site of the upcoming lunar Vice on the Firefly Blue Ghost mission 3, and as well as some of these missions that have already landed. So, Blue Ghost mission 1 already landed at Mare Crisium, and we've done a little bit of work of sort of creating some maps of this region as well. But first I'll show just the Lyman alpha, or the Reiner gamma map. So you'll see on top, Reiner gamma actually looks pretty interesting in the far UV with our maps. So it shows up as really low albedo and really high ratio. So we think this is related to the relative immaturity of the region, which we can really see pretty clearly in the far UV. So yeah, those top images are from Danny Waller's 2022 paper, and then on the bottom we have Amanda Hendricks's 2016 paper, which sort of dug into the spectral signatures of this region as well. So we can see a lot of sort of interesting features in both our maps, and maybe if we can dig more deeply into spectral slopes from these sort of spectral map I added this in recently, so we did some support of the recent Artemis 2 flyby. So some of these targets, Oriental or Aristarchus or Crater, were targeted by the Artemis astronauts. And so we created some of these LAMP map products to sort of showcase what LRO can do and sort of what we're seeing at these particular wavelengths. So we see at Oriental, a lot of these both features related to maturity, these crater rays as well as composition stand out. Aristarchus Plateau is sort of this weird dark looking feature, and in contrast to the sort of high albedo ejecta blanket from Aristarchus crater. And then we see these sort of nice, beautiful crater rays coming from crater. We can see again this sort of really nice immaturity related features. And then the main thing that LAMP has been used for is to look at South Pole. At the South Pole, we're interested in water ice and the future, where we see water ice and sort of in what abundances we see water ice. So generally, what we do when we're making maps of the South Pole is we accumulate signal over sort of extended periods of time to increase that signal to noise ratio to get the best maps that we can get. We see, okay, I'm almost done. So Randy Gladstone and Paul Hain had these nice papers sort of calculating this off-on ratio and trying to get at the abundance of water ice using about 2 years worth of data. But then Lizeth Magana more recently sort of was collecting even more data to really get the best maps that we can get. So yeah, we can use this off-band to on-band ratio, and we can also use the spectra to sort of investigate those signatures of water ice. And so, yeah, I keep mentioning off-band to on-band ratio. So off-band is essentially just about, the sort of those longer far UV wavelengths. It's really highly reflective for water ice at those regions. On-band is really absorptive. You take the ratio of those two, and a high ratio would be sort of indicative of water ice. And we do see generally, several studies have found that we see high off-on ratios in some of these regions where we would expect to see water ice, cold PSRs, below about 110 Kelvin, where water ice can sort of be stable. We do see elevated off-band to on-band ratios. So yeah, in conclusion, I think these LAMP maps are useful for a lot of different things. We're interested, we can use them to look at composition and maturity in addition to volatile content. And we've already performed a lot of analyses of several landing sites, and we're happy to continue characterizing these landing sites in the future. And yeah, I'll end there. Thanks.